This episode of Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by the crevice running through your soul that is threatening to break it in half. Instead, it's brought to you by cute little fuzzy critters that are gonna patch it up. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There are lots of critters out there who need a home. So if you want a kitty, you want a puppy, you want an adult cat, an adult dog, you want a bird, you want something else, a possum. You want a possum? You can probably adopt a possum. Go to your local animal shelter, see who they have that are available to take home. And if you've already got enough friends at home and you can't bring a new one home, remember that they can always use your time as a volunteer, or you can always donate to the cause. So get out there, find that little possum friend, and enjoy. But remember, he's not actually sleeping. He's just playing possum.
Thinking sideways.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways, the podcast. I am Devin, joined as always by
Joe
and
Steve.
And today we're going to talk about a mystery.
I thought this was the laundry episode.
Nope. That's sexist, Steve.
No, I thought it was a laundry episode because I keep asking what happened to that other sock,
okay.
And I don't know if it disappeared in the washer or the dryer, and you guys keep telling me we're going to cover that story.
Yeah. No, that's actually, I'm saving that kind of stuff up for my Matrix episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There, because we do live in a Matrix, kids. I know.
Yeah. Today we're actually going to talk about the identity of Lyle Stevik.
Ooh.
This episode has been suggested and requested by pretty much everybody.
Oh, yeah. We get
people.
this once a month or two at least.
Yeah, and usually we're like, oh, we'll do it soon, I guess, or whatever. So good news, we're doing it now.
We were just waiting to see if somebody would uncover his true identity.
Yeah. I do want to preface this by saying that I know this case is a lot of people's pet case. You know, it's the one that you do the most research on.
Yeah.
A lot of people are kind of obsessed with this one.
Yeah, they are. And we are going to try to keep this episode to our normal time of, about an hour. So we are very likely going to leave some things out. And the things that we leave out may end up being your favorite detail.
Sorry about that.
You probably have listened to the show before. You know how it goes. If we leave out your favorite detail, we encourage
because it's not important.
No. We encourage you to engage in the discussion that's happening online, particularly in public forums, because it's way more interesting when we can get a bunch of people involved in the conversation.
Yeah.
But, just
bear that in mind.
Bear that in mind, please, because there are a lot of little details to this story that may or may not be pertinent.
I could easily see somebody taking this on and being a half season.
It could probably
show
it could probably be an
Maybe.
entire show.
Maybe, yeah. I guess you could do that, but I don't know.
People have done more with less.
That's a good point. I'd rather keep it to an hour myself.
And then a final disclaimer before we really get into it.
What?
There's a bit of a small ears warning because we do talk about suicide a bit. Other than that, it's a pretty safe episode. So your own discretion.
It is.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
On September 16th, 2001, Lyle Stevik was found hanging by a belt in a hotel room he'd rented in Amanda Park, Washington.
Where's that?
In Washington.
The state?
Yes.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I'm pretty sure I've driven by Amanda Park.
Have you?
Yeah, because I was going up through the Olympic National Forest.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name, what number of highway it is that runs
It's
right by
101
it.
that goes through Amanda Park.
Okay.
So you probably did go through it.
Yeah, because I remember driving up there last year.
Kind of a white spot in the road, but but it's in the Olympic Peninsula, as Steve just said.
But it's beautiful.
Oh, it's very,
the
very
Olympic
nice.
Peninsula
Gorgeous.
is beautiful country, yeah.
Yeah. So police did a search for next of kin, and they found out that Lyle Stevik was probably a fake name, possibly from a book. It's a 1987 book. A lot of places on the internet, you'll see it referred to as like a 1992 or 1993 book, but I believe the first edition came out in 87 called You Must Remember This. Not the podcast.
Yeah, apparently the author is Joyce Carol Oates. Got some inquiries about this.
Yeah,
has said that it's just a made up name. It means nothing to me. I just made it up.
Yep.
And
Made up the whole Stevik family.
pretty much, yeah.
let's go ahead and talk about the events leading up to and his death, and then we'll talk about some more details, and then we'll talk about theories.
Perfect.
Great. Just like to give everybody a roadmap.
Wow.
The most definitive timeline we have for Lyle starts literally 3 days before his death, when he checked into the hotel that he would ultimately kill himself in. He had maybe arrived by bus a few hours earlier, most likely on a bus from Port Angeles, Washington, which was a southbound bus heading south.
Because Port Angeles is on the northern tip of the state.
Yep.
But a bus had come in from Aberdeen, Washington, which was a northbound bus.
Because that was south. That was
Yep.
on the southern end of the state.
Pretty much about the same time. And when investigators checked with the two bus drivers, they didn't recognize him. But I suspect bus drivers don't recognize most of their...
Unless you make
passengers.
a ruckus on the bus and give them cause
Yeah.
to take note of who you are,
Yeah.
probably not.
And it
Right,
seems like
yeah.
Lyle was a pretty I mean, he himself is not...
He's actually a striking looking guy.
He is,
or
yeah,
was,
but I
should
think
say.
you're right, but I think he didn't seem to really make himself known.
No, for sure. And probably the bus driver is just like looking at your ticket anyway,
Yeah.
not looking at you.
Yeah, and then if you just, sit in your seat quietly and get off, your normal spot, you're probably not going to be noticed too
Yep.
much, yeah. But again...
Or somebody could have just dropped him off. He could have hitchhiked, or somebody, actually a friend, could have driven him there and dropped him off.
Yeah, or he could have walked. I mean, probably not, but...
Or the aliens could have deposited him. We don't know. There's
We
a
really
whole bunch
don't.
of ways he could have got there.
Oh, wormholes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but we're pretty sure that he was on the bus. The most likely is that he was on the bus from Port Angeles, so southbound from Canada. It would have been from like the northernmost part of Washington, basically.
Northernmost reaches.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, and actually, he could have come from Canada. There's ferries to Port Angeles from Canada.
Yeah, but for all intents and purposes, we can say he was most likely coming south. Lyle didn't have any luggage when he checked into the hotel, although there is some discussion about whether or not he had a backpack. In any case, even if he did check in with a backpack, it wasn't in his room when he died.
He only had a couple of things. There's only like 2 things with him besides his clothes.
Really,
Yeah.
he had like some money and then a toothbrush and toothpaste was really the only things that could even qualify as personal belongings that he had in his room.
Pretty minimal. Kind of reminds me of Peter, what's his name?
Yeah.
Bergen.
Yeah. Peter Bergman.
Yeah.
Bergman.
Peter
Yeah.
Bergman, yeah.
So, like we said, he checked in the hotel on the 14th of September, 2001. He paid for 1 night cash, but he said he was probably going to stay more nights, and he ended up staying 3 nights. He was initially put in room 8, which was the room that was at the very end of it was more like a motel, hotel sort of.
Yeah.
It was almost like little cottages that were 2 motel rooms in a building, and then there would be space between them, and then another one that had 2 rooms, and it was one of those kind of places, not like the Motel 8, which is just one giant wall of rooms.
Yeah, no. It's a town that size is not going to have a big
Oh no,
hotel
no.
or anything
But just
like that.
I
mean,
think room 8 was literally the last room. I think there were 8
8 rooms.
Yeah.
So what happened is he got put in room 8, and then he came back a couple hours later to the front desk and said, that trailer park that's right next door, it's too loud. I'm having a hard time getting settled. Can I change rooms? And she said that when he had first checked in, he just seemed, nice. But when he came back this second time, he made her feel uncomfortable, and he seemed kind of like he was spaced out. But she said, okay, did you do anything in that room? I think she probably thought maybe he was doing drugs or something, So she said, did you do anything in that room? And he said, well, I just messed with the pillows a little bit. And she explicitly apparently said, did you take a shower? And he said, no. And she said, all right, and put him in room 5. And that's where he stayed for all 3 nights. It did turn out that he had actually taken a shower in room 8. So I don't know what's up with that.
Why she was concerned about it?
Well, she probably just
She
wanted
would have had to change out all of the towels.
I just
towels
don't know
and the
why.
soap and stuff. Yeah,
Right, yes,
yeah,
but I don't totally understand why he lied about it. Or why that, I guess he could have been traveling.
If his motivation is to change rooms, he's going to appease her and tell her he did nothing, no matter what he actually did.
Fair enough.
Well, yeah, no big deal, though. But.
Yeah, but just like a little odd, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it's a white lie that's dumb.
Yeah, and as mentioned, the reason that the clerk let him check in without ID. I guess, again, small town, they're a little more lenient. So she did let him check in without ID. But she said that she let him check in without ID because he seemed like a nice guy. He seemed like an okay guy.
Like a normal dude.
Yeah, and then, a couple hours later, she was describing him as kind of off and making her uncomfortable. So I don't really know. She said that she thought that he might have had a slight Canadian accent, but I also think that could mean a lot of different things. Again, especially since it's such a small place and it is more north, it's so totally possible that she just, any accent sounded kind of Canadian to her, you know?
Well, there's a whole host of accents that if you're not really paying attention and they're very subtle, people can incorrectly apply them to another nationality.
He probably just mispronounced a word or two, and she thought, well, that's so close to Canada there, you're going to get lots of Canadians there, and she probably just thought, oh, maybe a Canadian. By mispronouncing, I'm not saying Canadians mispronounce, but they say things like, a boat instead of about, and things like that,
After that first day, the next day...
Which was a Friday. Did we say that?
No, we didn't.
Friday the 14th.
It was a Friday, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It was a pretty uneventful day. I've seen reports that Lyle was seen pacing up and down the highway, but I think that...
By the side of the highway.
The side of the highway, but I actually think that that's a misunderstanding of what actually was happening, which was that hotel staff reported that he was seen walking up and down hallways in the motel area.
There's no hallways, Devin. They're little bungalows.
You could call it a hallway between things.
Okay, I would not call that a hallway, but I also think that if he was walking into the town, the only way to get to town is to walk down the side of the highway, so I think that's where that came from.
I read an interview that we'll talk about a little later with the woman who's the daughter of the maid that found Lyle. And one of the things she said is that she had seen him pacing up and down the hallway, is what she called it. So I don't know.
He might have been doing both.
I don't know
he
what
had
she's
all
calling
kinds
that.
of time.
That's true.
True.
The guy had no reading material in his room.
Well, he
Nothing
did.
much
Yes,
to
he
do.
Newspapers.
He had the newspapers.
Yeah, but other than that, though, he was pacing up and down beside the highway. Maybe he was waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
On the 16th, again, not really totally clear what happened. There are some discrepancies in reporting. His body was found on the 17th. They believe he hung himself either really late on the night of the 16th or maybe really early the 17th, but probably Sunday night.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and depending on who is telling this in written form on the internet, it can make it very, very confusing. When I first read your stuff, I was like, the days are totally off, because I had just gotten finished reading one that I realized had totally bungled the time frame.
Yeah, it's a kind of weird time frame, because I think people want to truncate it a lot because there's no information on those 2 days between.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People are just like, he checked in and then he died, but there's 2 days in there.
He must have done something. Man. Yeah, one of the things I haven't seen anything about is, what did he do for food the entire time? Did anybody check the local store to see if he went in and bought like donuts and milk? Or
see, that's why I was thinking that he was walking into town.
Yeah. Well, one of the things somebody brought up, which I think is actually probably a pretty good theory, is there was a barber in town and maybe he went in for a haircut and a shave because he was clean shaven and his hair was...
But he had no razor.
And he had no razor.
Yeah, but he had no razor. Again, this is a little cart before the horse. So, as I mentioned, you may have missed it. He did ultimately end up hanging himself was his method of suicide. He had hung himself with his belt and there was a green washcloth between his neck and the belt. There are some not safe for life photos on the internet. They're super easy to find. And the thing that's very weird about these photos is they are like disturbingly not disturbing to look at. Did you guys look at them?
They're kind of placid is the term I would use. He looks placid.
They're very calm.
No, they're not.
There's no violence.
No.
It's just, and it's I don't know, maybe it's something with the tone of the pictures, like the actual color tone of the pictures or something. But it's just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Not like, oh God, that's a dead human hanging there. But it is a dead human hanging there.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like there's this guy lying there, and then you realize, oh, the poor guy's dead. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. He just looks like sleeping, like kind of like that Mary Anderson.
Mm.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
she just looked like she was sleeping. So as mentioned, he hung himself with his belt. There was that washcloth in between the belt and his neck.
Washcloth.
The green washcloth. The buckle was facing his chin, and he tied the other end of the belt around the metal pole, and they call it an alcove in the motel room. It's the closet.
It's like a closet with no doors, and
Yeah.
the metal pole is one of those metal racks that you see in hotels that you're supposed to set your suitcase on.
But it's
side.
above head height.
But yeah,
or it's at head height.
Yeah, this one is higher than you normally see them in a hotel.
Well, no, see, I've seen this before. So what you're thinking of is those little foldable ones that you would set your suitcase on. I think. No, I've seen this kind before, and they're usually at about eye level, so that they can be used to with the
hanger shirts,
shirts and stuff like that. But then it's also got the platform on top, and they intend for you to put your bag up there rather than the little foldy one. But I've seen these a whole bunch.
Yeah, they also sometimes store extra pillows and stuff like that up there.
That too,
or the iron if they provide an iron.
Yeah.
They always provide an iron, Steve.
If they provide an iron.
They always provide an
they
iron.
don't.
I always make them take it away. I can only hurt myself with this thing. I can do no good.
Yeah, so he was not hanging off the ground. He was kind of in a kneeling.
Mm-hmm. He was very committed to this act.
He was, yes. And he was facing the back of the wall. So he was facing into the alcove. His head was tilted up towards the sky or towards the ceiling. And he had hung pillows on either side of the little alcove that he was in, presumably to avoid making noise.
Because you automatically are going to thrash when you're...
He really did not look like he thrashed. I mean, he probably did. I mean, just knowing
I think
human
that it didn't
nature.
look like it because he hung pillows and they absorbed the blows.
But
maybe it doesn't look to me like he did either, because what he did is by hanging, he stuffed the pillows between
the sides,
and the sides of that metal thing in the walls, just stuffed them in there very tightly and nicely. And if he thrashed, I would think they would have been knocked askew a little bit, but they're perfectly aligned with each other, and so. Who knows? It doesn't really matter, I guess.
But
the fact is, if he did thrash, nobody heard him anyway.
The weird thing, though, is that because that shelf was so low, his knees were barely off the ground.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I say that he was so very committed to doing what he was doing.
He could have very easily just stood up.
Yeah.
Or even,
turned.
I mean, literally almost any movement would have probably stopped the process for him. So I think that's one of the things that does strike a lot of people about this case is that I mean,
Well, there's a lot of things about it. I mean,
there's a lot of
for
things.
example, like you said, he was clean shaven.
Yeah.
You're gonna kill yourself. Why bother shaving?
He was clean shaven, but he didn't have a razor.
Right. But why bother going to the barber to get a shave? I mean, that's I don't know. It's weird. There's a lot of weird things about this.
Yeah.
The pacing by the highway.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder.
So since he was recently deceased, it was easy to get his fingerprints, his dental records, and his DNA. The DNA, I will say, I know is saliva DNA, so they can't send it for a lot of the DNA testing that they would otherwise be able to send it for science reasons. I don't understand the science behind it, but there's science reasons.
There's not enough sample there, I think what it is.
Yeah, but I think they have some way. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they can't do the, what was it? The
mitochondrial DNA?
Yeah, maybe that's the one where they can trace the family tree.
Mitochondrial.
Yeah, they can't do that one.
They can't? Why not?
Because I don't know.
Saliva, I don't think they get enough.
Reason. But I thought they did because that's how you did it when it's like the 23andMe, when you send in your DNA for your genetic analysis. So I don't really understand why. I have just seen from the people who have been really, really committed to this case online, reading through their kind of conversations, seeing that, yes, we wanted to send it, but, the saliva DNA, for whatever reason, the saliva DNA we need something to test it against. We can't just blah, blah. Anyway.
Well, what that's another thing that makes me wonder about this one is why nobody's just done a general test to see what his ethnicity is.
Well, so that one's
so much question about it.
That is actually a bit of a thing. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that there is actual lack of consensus. I think that the actual investigators are pretty agreed on what his ethnicity is.
It's the internet that is not.
But yeah, it's the internet who's just well, I don't know, he looks kind of like he might be this, which is true. I mean, he does look, you could kind of just put him in a lot of different ethnicities.
He could be Hispanic, he could be American Indian, he could be Arab.
There's
or
a lot.
Persian. He looks like a lot of different things.
We'll talk about all of that A full isotope report is available online. It's 29 pages long. We'll talk about some of that a little bit, but we're not going to go too far into that. So if that's the sort of thing that does interest you, you should look at that.
It's got maps and everything.
Super easy to find. But I want to keep talking about Lyle's, the room and all of that stuff. Lyle was found by the maid. She knocked on the door to try to clean the room.
Yeah.
And she said that when she went in the first time, she thought he was praying in the alcove. She just kind of saw his knees and saw him,
She does what every maid does when they open the room and they see that somebody is there and probably doing something that they don't want to be observed doing.
And
she simply closes the door quietly and goes on about her business.
Yeah.
She's probably thought autoerotic, that thing. Yeah.
No, I think she probably just saw his feet and was like, okay, whoops, sorry, sorry, sir. And, I'll come back later. Later, she came back with a manager and they called the cops when they realized what had happened.
And the manager's the one that went in and realized what was going on.
Yeah. He had left $160 exactly in $20 bills and a note saying for the room, because you remember he'd only paid for that first night. $160 happens to be exactly what he owed for the other 2 nights.
It looks like, I've heard it said on the interwebs that they were very crisp, brand new $20 bills.
They looked pretty crisp.
And they look in the picture, they look pretty crisp.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to know is, are they truly authentically, really super new, crisp $20 bills?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Joe. I'm sorry.
Damn it.
I know. It's crazy. Those are the sort of things that would be really nice to know, but I don't think people really ask that question a lot. He had 8 additional dollar bills crumpled in his pocket and a pen. There was some change. I can't remember how much exactly.
It's like $1.75 or something.
I think actually $1.75. Something in loose change, like dimes and nickels and stuff like that.
And by the way, in the picture that you see, that the coins have been arranged, they've been sorted out. And did you say that was done by one of the policemen?
Yeah.
To count them? Okay.
Yeah, what I said was there's in some of the pictures you can also see a little piece of paper with columns and tally marks that look like somebody was tallying up how much money they had. It was the detective.
Somebody literally was tallying up how much
it really
money
was.
he had.
It wasn't some weird thing that was left in the room. It was just the investigators were counting the change, and that's how they were keeping track of it. Because it was it was kind of a lot of change. It wasn't. I don't know how many quarters. I don't remember. I'm so sorry.
It didn't look like more than a couple of quarters.
Yeah, but most of it was dimes and nickels, I feel.
But if you're one of those people who automatically pulls bills out to pay for stuff and doesn't try to use up your
it was
change,
like that.
It very quickly adds up.
Totally, but it was more that it wasn't as though you could just be like, well, there's 5 quarters, so it's $1.25.
Yeah, it was a mix.
It was a bunch of a lot of nickels in there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sweet that he still paid his bill.
That was nice.
And kind of speaks to his character, probably.
Maybe.
The only other things, as mentioned in the room, that didn't really belong there were the toothbrush and toothpaste. There was also an empty Pepsi cup and 2 copies of the Sunday newspaper, the local Sunday newspaper, from the day before.
Yeah, the Daily World from Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I called them, and they don't have an online archive.
Huh.